The Prussian Railway is the defining mechanic of 1835. Unlike other share companies, it is not formed through a standard initial offering. It's a massive state-run entity that is assembled in pieces over the course of the game. The first pieces are 4 10% shares that unlock for purchase immediately after the Baden Director's share is sold. Christian has now the option to buy the Baden Director, and he chooses to do so, and that immediately unlocks 40% of Prussia that can be bought for 154 each. These early shares cost 154 marks each. However, they are speculative investments. The Prussian Railway does not exist yet, so these shares pay no dividends and cannot be sold. You are buying early equity in the future national network. We are now jumping forward to the point when the Prussian Railway is triggered, which happens at the 4 train. We are now in the next phase, and the Baden Director now has an interesting choice to make. The first 4 train is available from the bank, and the first 4 train is triggering the opening of the Prussia. However, the train costs 360 and the Baden Director has only 317 in its treasury, so he decides to withhold the revenue and is now able to buy the first 4 train. This triggers several things. The first thing is that all of the 2 trains have now automatically rusted and disappeared from the game. So there are many, especially minor companies, that are without a train. Secondly, the director of the M2, which is the specific paper that holds the directorship of the Prussia, is asked if he wants to exchange it for the director of the Prussia and thus open the Prussia. We choose yes. Stefan chooses to open it. Now, in order, every player is asked if they want to exchange any of their papers for Prussia papers. So Stefan, for example, can choose to exchange the M4 against 10% share of the Prussia and the BB, the private paper, as well. Let's assume that he does want to do that. The next player is Christian, who has the M3, M6 and HB. Christian decides to exchange the M6 because it hasn't got much left, but he wants to keep the M3 for himself for the moment because it still has treasury and he wants to get that money out into the Baden presidents, into the Baden company later. Mark equally wants to get the 221 out of his M5 and decides to keep. The situation is now that Stefan has 40% and is therefore the president of the Prussia that will run at the next round. All of the minor companies' tokens have now become Prussia token, and Prussia has a vast network at the north of the map. It also still has 2 tokens available to lay for later. If players refuse to sell their assets voluntarily, the state will force them eventually. The purchase of the first train initiates phase 3. At this point, any remaining minor companies and the relevant private railways must be converted into Prussia stock. The engine enforces this mandatory merger instantly.